Hey, what's up, stock compounders? Brad here. So I wanted to follow up on the video I made yesterday about spin-offs, right? Spin-off stocks. So I took that spreadsheet that I showed you guys yesterday, which is here, and I cleaned it up and I built it out a little bit further. So you can see here where it says source SEC. These were all showing up in that search that I ran yesterday. But I also looked at a few other websites that show spin-offs. One of them is stockspinoffs.com. Great domain name, guys. And I pulled a bunch from there as well. So what I did here, essentially I want a master spreadsheet of spin-offs that have happened over the last 2 years. You can see the most recent one here was listed on October 2nd. And then we're going to go back all the way to October 11th of 2018. So you can see there's 28 spin-offs that have kind of come online in the last 2 years based on the spreadsheet that I have here. And you can see the spin-off ticker is in this second column. Now what I wanted to do is figure out if I had put $100 in each of these spin-offs right when it was listed, right when I was available to buy it, okay? If I'd put $100 in each of these at that open price, what would they be worth today, okay? So I've got the open price here. This took quite a bit of time to, get all of these numbers together, look each open price up for each of these spin-offs. And then I looked up the current price, the price today, as of what is today? October 6th. And then you can see I put a change here. So this is basically what has been the percentage change from the open price to the current price. And then I have the initial stake of $100. And I've got the value today, right? And so that allowed me to get, okay, I invested a total of $2,800, 100 in each of these 28 spinoffs. The value today, if I had bought in at that open price when the spinoff was first listed on the exchange, I'd have almost $3,400, okay? So that's a 21.3% return on these 28 companies. Obviously, there's different time durations. This one I would have bought, 4 days ago? This one I would have bought almost 2 years ago. So, it's difficult to kind of back out what would an annual rate of return be for this. I guess you could have it to make it simple and just call it, almost 12% or almost 11%. And then I wanted to take it a step further. What if I looked at only these spinoffs that had Value Investors Club write-ups? So what I did here is I listed, if it had a write-up, I listed the date. There was only one that had a short thesis, okay? And actually this short write-up was pretty close to the current price. So you can see the price had run up a lot before that short thesis came out. Almost 6.2 times the price had increased. So anyway, I didn't include that one because that was a short write-up, and I don't short stocks. So if you look at how many of them had Value Investors Club write-ups, there were 14. Okay, so exactly half of the 28 spinoffs from the last 2 years had Value Investors Club write-ups. And if I did the same exercise, an initial stake of $100, and then what am I left with today? $1,742. So that's a slight improvement over, just buying any old spinoff over the last 2 years, putting $100 in. It was a slight increase in performance if I only invested in spinoffs that had Value Investors Club write-ups. Now these spinoffs, I invested in them at the price when that Value Investors Club report came out. Okay, so it wasn't the open price, it was the Value Investors Club price. So that was kind of an interesting exercise. Now I want to take these a few steps further. And I haven't gotten too far along that path. I have written here how many super investors own each of these spinoffs. So if there's no number, it means no super investors own them. In this case, 5 super investors own Madison Square Garden's Entertainment, and then it just goes down the list. So you can see there's a fair bit of super investor activity in these spinoffs. I was impressed by how much activity there was. So that's a data point. And I think the grand goal here is to potentially, use, so Value Investors Club write-up, that's a check mark. Super investor ownership, that's a check mark. Insider holding percentage, that's a check mark. And then I can kind of easily give a grade or a score to each of these spinoffs. How many check marks do they get from these different metrics? That's a thought I had. But a few other columns I want to go down, and I haven't gotten very far along this yet. OpenInsider.com shows insider transactions, right? It shows, we're owners, or management, was the management team, right? Board of directors members and members of the management team, have they been buying or selling the stock? And at what price? It actually lists the specific price, which is really cool. So the idea here is if you have insiders that are buying, there's not a lot of reasons that insiders buy. Insiders buy, potentially they buy a little bit just to kind of juice the stock, right? Because, investors look at insider activity, but if they're not putting much in, if they're only kind of buying a little bit, it's kind of easy to tell that. And so that might not be a strong signal that the insiders think there's, a lot of stock price appreciation coming. But if you see insider buying where there's big buying, there's a few different ways you can gauge that. But if you see, insiders are putting hundreds of $1,000s into buying shares of their own company, hundreds of thousands or millions, that's a pretty good indication that you've got some bullish insiders, which is a really strong signal potentially that you could have a winning stock on your hands. So I need to go deeper into Open Insider and kind of qualify. Are they big buys? Are they small buys? Is the CEO buying? Is it just members of the board of directors that are buying? There's, not all of these are kind of equal in my mind. So I have to parse that out. Another thing I did look up is value line insider holding percentage. And not many of these had figures for that, probably because they're just too small in market cap to be covered in that depth by value line. But you can see, that's a pretty small insider holding percentage. 10.4, that's higher, PNTG. And this happened to be the best performing spinoff to date in the last 2 years. So it was interesting that had a fairly high value line insider holding percentage. And then you can see here we got Fox and then CYCN that also had significant insider holdings. I'm considering anything over 10% to be significant. But it's interesting that there's not a lot in between 10% and 1%, right? You basically got numbers below 1% or numbers above 10%. It's kind of interesting. And another thing I want to look at is corner of Berkshire and Fairfax. how much are people talking about these different stocks in corner of Berkshire and Fairfax? There's a lot of smart investors in this message board, corner of Berkshire and Fairfax. So one potential data point is how many pages of messages have there been about these companies? And the thought there is the more these really smart investors are talking back and forth about each of these spin-offs, potentially, I don't know, the more upside there is. Obviously, we have to look and see what people are saying about the companies. But that might be a quick, easy first data point. How much are people actually talking about these spin-offs in corner of Berkshire and Fairfax? So I want to take a look at that. There's obviously a lot of other things to look at. I want to look at magic diligence, see what the earnings yield is, see what the return on invested capital is for the last year. It shows current ratio. There's a number of different things in magic diligence. So actually, let's just pull that up real quick. I want to see if LNSR is in there. LNSR, it's probably too recent. Let's try the next one, Max N. Just want to show you guys what it looks like in here. I should go down a little bit further. MSGE, let's try that. No, these might be too recent. We'll try one more. Carrier. Oh, okay. Well, I'll do that on another day here. But that's another kind of column I want to collect data for. But anyway, guys, I'm going to share this spreadsheet with you. I think this is a fantastic place to start if you want to research spin-off stock opportunities. It's really the last 2 years of spin-offs. I think it's a pretty solid list. You got 28 different spin-offs here from the last 2 years. So guys, let me know in the comments, what would you like to see in terms of columns? How, what kind of information are you looking for to try to figure out which of these might be great investment opportunities? Love to hear from you. Maybe I'll include your suggestions as additional columns here. But of course, take this spreadsheet, guys, run with it, see how you want to slice this up and do a deeper dive into a few of these. I'm sure there are some fantastic investment opportunities in this list. So curious to hear from you how you're going to slice up this information here. But anyway, guys, that's all I have for today. Sorry, I'm not super coherent. It's late. It's the latest I've ever made a video at 11:13 p.m. But I wanted to get this out before midnight. And hope you guys enjoy it. All right, I will see you in the next video. Take care.